Game Boy Pocket, the second iteration of Nintendo's Game Boy, came out in 1996. It was a smaller and somewhat cost-reduced version of the Game Boy, but also including an improved screen, which instead of the typical pea green look was black and white. It also had a faster response rate, so blurring was not as common. Otherwise, everything was pretty much the same. It came in several different colors, including red, yellow, green, black, clear, silver, blue, and pink. One other improvement over the original Game Boy was that instead of using 4 AA batteries, it was able to be run off of 2 AAA batteries, giving you about 10 hours of gameplay, give or take. There was another iteration of it that was Japan only, known as the Game Boy Light, which, for all intents and purposes, was the exact same thing, except it included an electroluminescent backlight. Other than that, it's the same system. Well, except for the fact that it went back to using AA batteries, but it was able to get about 20 hours of use out of it, so kind of an improvement, I guess. Anyway, let's take a look at the Game Boy Pocket I picked up for repair, and we'll probably do some mods because, well, as you'll see in a minute, the screen isn't exactly healthy, so let's continue. Okay, so today's video we're going to go over the Game Boy Pocket. If you remember the August pickups video, I picked one of these up from eBay, but it was actually from Japan. And surprisingly, it cost me less to get this from Japan than it did to get one of these from here, despite the $20 shipping. So, go figure. And if you do recall, and you can even see here, there's definitely some screen burn, and that's from UV light, basically, and I'm not sure the whole chemical process behind it, but it destroys the polarizer film. You can kind of see that also with this, what looks like a broken screen, but it's not. And I did test it out real quick, and we'll do it once again. Let's see if I can focus here. There is a little bit of corrosion right here, and there's a little bit on the screw there. These terminals seem to be fine otherwise, just a normal cleaning. In the event that this is just too far gone to clean, I probably have some terminals somewhere. But for now, let's just fire it back up just to make sure it still works. And it does. Sound does work, volume control works. Up, down, left, right works. Start and select seem to work. Contrast wheel works. So yeah, overall functionality is good except for the screen. Screen lens looks like it's in good shape too. I don't see any scratches or anything. I'll have to clean it a little bit to get a better idea. Shell is in overall good shape. Sure, there's some scuffs and all of that. It definitely needs a cleaning. And I do also need to test the headphone jack and the DC jack here, but I have no reason to suspect that they don't work unless some of the corrosion leaked in there, which I don't think it did beyond that screw. So good. Now there's basically there's basically 3 ways you can go about repairing this. One is just to source another Game Boy Pocket screen. That's an option, and as long as you're doing it from an otherwise broken Game Boy Pocket, fantastic. You don't want to cannibalize one good one just to make another good one. So the other option is to peel away the polarizing layer and replace it. And it can be done, but it's a huge annoyance, huge pain. And I've seen enough videos out there that I don't think I want to go that route because I'm afraid that I'll damage the screen, damage the ribbon, something like that. Third option is to replace it with an IPS mod, similar to what I did with the original Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance, and I think that's what I'm going to do with this one. I just don't know which screen I want to go with just yet. I'm also going to obviously then have to replace the screen lens because the IPS screen is slightly larger than this. I think this should be the same size as the original Game Boy. I think it's like 2.3 inches or something. I think the new one is like 2.8, maybe 3 inches, something like that. I'll overlay that on screen, but let's get this opened up just to make sure that there isn't any more serious damage. Now I am using a number 3 tri-wing, tri-blade screw. So let's go ahead and get this taken apart. carefully. So inside, a little dirty, but that's to be expected. Shield seems to be okay otherwise. Yeah, not much to talk about here. Here's the main board. Not sure if the speaker is supposed to have a cover over the magnet or not. I don't remember, but it works, so I'm not going to mess with it. Of course, typical leftover flux residue, because why bother cleaning it? Looks like the corrosion does extend all the way through the battery tab, and I don't know if it's visible or not. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. So it is right all the way through there. Tiny, tiny bit on the shell terminals, but that's fine. That probably could be easily cleaned. I'm more concerned with this one here because this has to be soldered in. Now it is a single tab, so it'll be much more easy. It'll be easier to replace as a result. Now let's get the rest of this opened up just to be safe. And for there's just looks like 3 Phillips screws. I'm gonna use a PH1. Let's lift these bales up here to separate the screen. Connector looks good. And there's the other side. I've never actually taken one of these apart before. I've never even touched one of these until I got it. So a little bit of gunk or something, probably pop or something that was spilled, or juice or whatever they were drinking over in Japan. It looks like it's in good shape as far as I can tell. I don't see any other corrosion anywhere or anything. Just a light cleaning, and this will be good as new. Clean the speaker a little bit. A little bit of corrosion on the headphone jack, so I may need to test that after all. But that could just be standard age as well. Otherwise, I think we're in good shape here. Now, since the screen itself is probably fine, it's just a polarizer film, I don't want to destroy it, so I don't just want to pop it out. So now, because I, at least right now, intend on using the original shell, there will have to be some modifications made, more than likely cut some of this frame out. I've seen, maybe a post or something. I'll know more once I get the screen in so I can take a closer look at it and read the instructions. But I'm going to get this shell cleaned first to see if it is actually worth saving. And again, it is not in bad shape. There's just some surface scratches, very light ones, general wear and tear. Let me get the rest of this apart, get these things soaked, clean, get this clean, get a screen ordered, as well as a glass lens. And all these buttons are gray, but I may do a white lens. I think it would look better. We'll see. Figure this out, and I may need to just order a new one. But let me get everything finished taking apart, cleaned up, and then we'll proceed with the mod. Okay, so I've got everything clean, and well, let's take a look at how the shell came out. So personally, I think it came out pretty well. No real scratches or anything, no gouges, gashes, deep scratches, anything like that. The label here is a little scuffed, but that's just regular wear and tear. But yeah, other than your typical wear and tear on everything, it came out almost perfect. So put those to the side. Let's go back to the PCB. Now, everything is cleaned up, and we do have to replace the battery terminal here, of course, because of the old one just being corroded and damaged. And I'm going to have to get some solder mask on here. So fortunately, the shell is opaque, so it won't show through, because the only solder mask I have is green. but we'll get that installed, and that did come in. Where is... So I did get that battery terminal, and I also got the IPS screen in. We'll get to that in a minute. First, we've got to get this soldered on. But the battery terminals did come in. Now, they come in as a pair, of course, but I'm only going to replace one of them since the other one is in good shape. But at least I've got a spare. And this one should just simply just solder in like that and done. So it should be a quick job here. So let me get a soldering iron and get this going. So while the soldering iron is heating up, although it's pretty much there, I'm going to go ahead and just apply a little bit of flux right over here. Then we'll go ahead and insert the battery terminal if it doesn't jump out at me again. Okay, well that's on there. Not super thrilled with it, but also I'm going to go ahead and get some solder mask put on there. It's going to have to sit under a UV light for like 10 minutes or so, so I will be back. Okay, so while we wait for the solder mask to cure, let's take a look at the screen kit. I can't get this thing open. There, so I'll give you a warning card basically saying test before you actually fully assemble it. Basically what they mean is attach all the ribbon cables and everything to the PCB. Don't actually stick it into the shell yet because the adhesive they use is pretty powerful. So now, just like every other one of these kits, they don't really come with any instructions, but there are a lot of guides online. Unfortunately, this particular screen is larger than the shell can hold, so there is some trimming that is going to need to be done, namely most of the outside perimeter, as well as just a little bit off the edge of the LED hole there. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to ruin a perfectly good shell. So I'll probably save that for another project, which means that I need another shell. And yes, of course, I ended up ordering one in here. So we'll take a look at it and see what I picked up. And so I decided to go with a new screen lens, of course, because why not? This is a white one. Thought it'd be really neat. Also got appropriate buttons, and oh yeah, there's the second ID label. So I got some buttons here because we'll need those as well. And I'm going with a matte black. Now, what I didn't realize is that this matte black shell is actually kind of like a rubberized texture on it, which is really neat. I kind of like that. I know a lot of people don't, but I feel as though it gives it more of a premium feel. These shells have to be modified too, though not to the same extent, because they're already pre-modified. They've got the cut next to the LED hole there, and they've got these little tabs that you just have to break off to be able to fit the IPS screen mod. Well, this particular screen mod anyway. I'm gonna go ahead and get these tabs snipped off, and by then hopefully the solder mask will have cured on the main board and we'll get everything put together. Okay, now let's see, the board is ready. Again, it's not gonna be pretty because I only have the green solder mask, but it'll work. So before we apply any adhesive or anything, I'll go ahead and get the screen installed. So it goes in this way. Wow, that is a very tight fit, but it should work. I'm going to put a sheet of plastic behind it for the time being, so as it doesn't slide back out again. So I can isolate it for a while. And then I have to have another piece of protective layer over that, obviously. That would normally just fold over, but we won't have to fold it over for testing purposes. Okay, good enough for now. And I'll go ahead and temporarily install it into the shell here because I need to get the battery contacts through. And get some batteries installed. What do I do with those? Try to be careful not to rip anything. No picture though. I'll have to double check some of the connections. Hopefully I didn't tear anything. If I did, it wouldn't be the first time I had an oops on this channel. So a little bit of a goof up on my part. Not a disastrous one, fortunately. But it turns out that the reason why I can't get the screen to come on is because I don't have this wire soldered on from this pad here to this pad here on the switch. Now, in my defense, the instructions are not super clear as to why you need to do that. In fact, they combine the steps effectively of soldering this to this, as well as soldering in the touch sensor, if I can pick it up, at the same time. So my brain basically said, oh, that's all the same step. Well, I'll do that later. I want to test the screen before I install everything. No, apparently that's how the power gets to the controller boards here and then to the display. So I assumed it just came from the Game Boy itself. So I'm going to go ahead and get B-roll going, and we'll get some more soldering done. So while the iron is heating up, I'm going to go ahead and get some solder ready to go, and I'm just going to pre-tin these two pads here as well as VCC on the switch here. All right, it should be at the right temperature, hopefully. Actually, let me get this open. And let's see. There, I'll get a little bit more here. There. And then just fresh solder there. There, that's a ball there. I don't like that. Okay. So now that that's solder is there, let's go ahead, and it's nice that they, I'm pretty sure it's just enameled wire, but they do already strip the ends to expose a little bit there for you, so that's nice. So let's see, I'm gonna be an awkward position here, but there. Now let's route it this way and around this way. There. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and attach the screen as soon as I remember what I did with it. This screen may drain batteries a lot faster than you might be expecting. Now, the shell that I bought is set up for the LipoMod little lithium polymer battery pack, and you can buy a special battery cover that's already pre-drilled. You can drill your own hole. Basically, it gives you, USB-C charging and a battery, and that battery, it will provide enough current to everything. So let's get this shell attached real quick because of the battery terminals. Switch it off. We'll put these batteries in. These are new batteries, so all right, moment of truth, everyone. Screen. Yes, it's upside down because of the orientation, but thank goodness it's working. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get the, we'll start the installation into the actual shell itself. I'll solder in this at a later time. I just want to start getting everything else prepared, so let me get that going. Okay, so the next step, obviously after testing and modifying either an existing shell or even the custom shell, is to put the adhesive down, because that's the only way you're going to be able to do it. Now what I'm going to do first is clean the area off with a little bit of IPA. just in case there's any grease or anything, even just little specks of dust. I mean, the 3M tape is pretty darn good at what it does, so there. Make sure it completely evaporates. And it installs this way. The smaller notch, the smaller notch is a double notch. Actually, yeah, there's only 2 notches on this side, 1 on this side. So the double notch goes here, single notch goes there where the battery hole of the power indicator hole would go. And they've got it pre-cut. Let's remove this little section here because you're going to use this adhesive to attach the controller board of the LCD to the back of it, and it'll also act as an insulation. And the reason they recommend testing the display before attaching is because this tape is uber strong, and once it's on, you're probably not getting it off without a lot of work and risk damaging the screen and everything. You can use a hairdryer on the front on a low heat, and it should soften up the glue enough. But so there's that. Now the other fun part. Not sure what color you might have, but I've got this purple pinkish tab that'll just go in the upper left corner, and that's how it'll install. But before you press down, make sure you remove the protective coating off, obviously. There. Now if you're using an original shell, it's going to be as far to the top left as you can without going too high, obviously, with it. And then gently just push down to adhere it. I'm going to do this off camera because I don't want to damage anything. Go ahead, take this and use that to cover the screen back up temporarily so I can protect it a little further. So there's that installed. Now this will be more of a pain, but I won't have a choice. But what you can do is take the tape and cut it to size with my scissors. Why are they stuck to this bag? So let's see. About that much, and about that much. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it'll be enough to insulate it from the back of the screen, which has got this metal shield, as you can see. Don't want anything too short. And this will go. That's installed, and you don't even necessarily have to adhere it, the controller board, to the back of the display, but I will, just to keep it from rattling around. Again, this is a Game Boy Pocket. It's designed to be mobile. You don't want things rattling around. And again, once this gets affixed, that's it. So there's that. That's installed. Put some Kapton tape if you have it. If you don't, you can probably take whatever's left of your 3M tape to cover it up, but I don't like doing that, so I'm going to go ahead and put some Kapton tape over that area here just to keep anything from here shorting on here. So sometimes these kits come with tape to put over, sometimes they don't. This one didn't. And I'm going to put a little piece over here as well. That should be perfect. Okay, so before we flip that over, now we have to install the buttons and membranes and everything. Where do I have those? So I decided to do white on black just because I thought it'd be pretty neat. I'll leave that for the end. There. Now we'll fold this over carefully. Insert the speaker into its housing. Very, very snug fit. So, okay, so we've got this is already pre-wired here, like I did earlier for testing. I've pre-tinned that, so we're going to go ahead and get this so thin touch sensor soldered on, which is, for all intents and purposes, you can use like copper tape and a piece of wire too. In fact, I think that's how some of the older kits came in. This will basically just solder on, so it'll probably just go up here, and I could probably put Kapton tape behind it to hold it in place. So I'm going to go ahead and just get it tacked on for now. There. And the iron I can shut off because I'm not going to need it anymore, hopefully. And I'll just go on like that. So grab a piece of Kapton tape and okay. So that should take care of that. And go ahead and we'll get the screws put back in to hold everything together, get the back shell on, one more test, and go through all the options. Okay, so we're going to use their supplied screws because the holes are not pre-tapped or anything. These are self-tapping screws. Do not use the original ones with these Repro shells. You always use what they give you. And what's nice about what they give you is they're all Phillips, so you don't have to worry about tri-wing. So one went here. And you'll see there's a green circle around where each screw goes. And then of course all that's left is the back shell. Which will then hold the rest of the PCB in and everything. And before we put the lens back on, let's test one more time, make sure it powers on. And we have, there's the brightness, and I'm not sure what that's supposed to do, so let's go ahead and get we'll get this installed here. We'll get a screen lens installed, which I went with white again to match the buttons. And there we go. Pretty snazzy looking, if I do say so myself. Almost forgot one important thing, of course. Now, I don't have a serial number on there, obviously. That's okay. All right, let's get a game in here, and let me look up how to use the controls, and we'll go from there. All right, let's give it a test with Tetris. Here's max brightness and minimal brightness, which is practically off on camera, but there's a little bit of lighting still there. Now, the touch sensor doesn't seem to be working through the shell. I don't know if it's too thick here, and that's why they recommend putting it on the side. Maybe I have to resolder it. But considering this was black and white to begin with, or greenish, I'd say that this is probably good enough. But yeah, I like the quality of the screen. It looks like even by default it has little pixels that are, I don't know if they're emulated or, but let's see if I can get to show on camera or not. Yeah, I think you can see them. So that's kind of cool. Wish I could go through all the different color combinations, but I don't seem to be able to do that, so unfortunately, but Future Costech here. You can obviously see the screen is green now instead of black and white. I started fiddling with the touch sensor and everything and managed to kind of get it working for a little bit, and then that kind of stopped again. I tried resoldering the ribbon. I swapped the ribbon out for just a piece of wire and a little piece of metallic tape, even just a little metallic strip, really, really thin, and it was just intermittent. I suspect there may be a slight kink in the main ribbon, and as such, when I have the shell closed, it doesn't register the touches, but when I slightly pull it apart, it does. So, not sure what to make of that. Now, I did have a ticket open with Handheld Legend originally because I thought the display wasn't working. That was before I realized that you have to have that power cable soldered on. So I left the ticket open and just updated it, and I'm waiting to hear back from them. It probably won't be before this video gets posted, but we'll see. I'm not too concerned with it overall though. While it would be nice to be able to switch through the different colors, leaving it either black or white or even the original pea green, you know, it's probably more appropriate. The black and white is what the Pocket originally had, and the pea green would be a little bit more nostalgic with the original Game Boy. But we'll see what they say. So that's the IPS mod for the Game Boy Pocket. Like I said, I'm going to tackle the touch sensor later. It's also possible again that this shell is too thick and it just won't work with it, and I'll have to figure out another plan. But yeah, so a little bit more challenging than it should have been. It was me probably overthinking a little bit. So again, when you're testing the screen before you install it, you will have to solder in the wire from the ribbon to the power switch just to get it powered on. So that's the drawback, unfortunately, but that's okay. So that's the video. If you'd like to hit the thumbs up, feel free to subscribe if you haven't yet. But again, there's never any obligation to do so. If you didn't like the video, please hit the thumbs down, but please let me know why in the comments below so I can try to use that to help things going forward. Otherwise, thanks all, and I'll catch you later.